we would never say you should buy this way, right? Every brand's going to have their own opinion on what that is and how that, kind of presents in the marketplace. But we can say, hey, here's a way of going through the conversation. And
Gotcha.
this is why when we started talking, I was so fascinated, because that's where you guys are investing
Yeah.
your time and your energy, is how do we help marketers have the conversation amongst themselves to say, who are we?
And I think what's so interesting as we go on these journeys together, the amount that I've personally gotten better or learned is crazy too.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I feel like what's lost is like when you actually start to have a lot of these conversations with each other, how much you learn too.
Oh, absolutely.
About life,
Yeah.
about people, about going forward, about getting better yourself. So I think ultimately there's a beauty in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we start to invest more into the future, how do you think organizations, if you had your perspective, could come together and have more of these conversations, and how they could help the person who has their own bias not feel like they're feeling the need to feel like they're in a tough situation? So just curious how you think about those.
Well, so again, for me, and the reason that BSI turned out the way it did and kind of has taken the path that we've taken around education and building community and things like that, is you need someone at all levels of the supply chain to kind of have a common basis and a common language, because until you're speaking the same language, you're not going to have any of those hard conversations. Right. Yeah. If I'm a marketer and I say brand safety, like when we started this, and it was more about the word safety than suitability, a marketer meant, hey, what does my ad show up next to? Kind of that proto adjacency, your airline crash example that everybody kind of cited early on. But if I talk to the publishing side of the house, they're worried about viewability, how much my inventory is going to get, go away because, somebody viewed it as unsafe or unsuitable, or it didn't render properly and I'm losing revenue. And so, you look at those two sides of the house and they were not speaking the same language. And, then every step along the way to get you from point A to point B had their own little version of what that meant to them. And so I think, for us, starting that conversation and saying we all first need to get together in our individual groups as parts of the supply chain and agree amongst ourselves. And then we need to start talking collaboratively. And so, the marketers need to have their own safe space to talk. Publishers need to have their own safe space to talk. And eventually we need to get them together and say,
how do individuals get that safe space to talk in this?
Well,
I think that's been something you're working on heavily, right?
Yeah.
You have an advisory board that you've built that allows individuals to have those conversations, which I actually think is even bigger than the brands and the agencies a lot of the time, because you're now allowing different humans from different places to have the conversations. I think it will take it even further, right?
So, and we want to do more of that, right? So when we get the marketers together, it's in that same kind of, closed door session. Hey, the marketers tend to want to talk about, hey, we're very resource constrained. There aren't a lot of us focused on this issue. Right. How can you help us focus our effort and time, whether it's with tools, with process, with, resources that can be common to the industry, and we can just adjust a little bit, whatever it is, those are the conversations they're having. It isn't, and we're not talking at the CMO level, right? We're talking about the people who are pushing the buttons and making the day-to-day decisions that affect media buys.
That brings up a huge point. How do you then get those people to get the types of budgets and respect that they deserve within their organizations, right?
Listen to this.
I'm listening.
And other full episodes of Breaking Through the Mayhem on your favorite podcast platform.